Hello again. A lot of uncertainty and speculation about how sharply the fuel price will increase tonight. The R1.50 cut in the fuel levy expires at midnight with no word yet on whether it will be extended or not. Without an extension, fuel prices could be hiked by nearly R4 a litre. The consequences of this will be felt far and wide. Senzangakhona Owen Nkomo is CEO of Inkunzi Wealth Group and joins us now to discuss some of the likely ramifications. Senzangakhona, good afternoon. Thank you very much for your time. Let's just start there. If, we don't know yet, if it rises by as much as anywhere between R2.50 and R4, for example, that R1.50 levy relief we had for the last couple of months is taken away. What kind of ramifications could we anticipate?
I think thank you for having me, Brad, and the viewers, wherever they are. I think the most important thing will be the fact that we'll be one of the countries with the most expensive fuel in the world. And the direct impact that's going to hit the men in the street and everyone else is the fact that inflation will not abate. Inflation will most certainly go through that 6% upper band of the Reserve Bank, forcing the Reserve Bank to push interest rates higher, and that's going to obviously make it a little bit more expensive to borrow money. And I think that given where the price of oil is sitting above $120 a barrel, the likelihood of this being the new normal, where we get fuel price increases every other month, is going to make it more difficult for us as a country to sustain our cost of doing anything, literally. The cost of food, cost of energy, is just going to spike continuously, Braden.
Yeah, transportation costs and all those things that are connected with it. I don't recall recently, I might be wrong, I don't recall recently government taking so long to announce the decision, though the Energy Department to pronounce itself on the likely increase. I mean, it's just supposed to be happening at the beginning of the month or the first Wednesday of the month, and we're still waiting. Does that indicate that this is a bigger headache the government is really having to tackle than it may have anticipated? Because there was some hope earlier that maybe the rand-dollar exchange rate might be improved, or that the Russia-Ukraine war might have been resolved by now, but it's still escalating.
Yes, most definitely. I think that things are extremely difficult at this stage. There are some people that we usually reach out to try and get a sense of guidance in terms of where the next move might be. And fortunately, it's based on information that is publicly available, so there's nothing untoward there. But the guys are just not answering our phones this time, Brad. And so I really think that the guys, DMR with the Minister of Finance and maybe even the guys at Treasury might be hopefully locked in rooms trying to see how they can mitigate this potentially disastrous impact of a higher price of fuel. R4 odd, it's R3.80 odd we're estimating. I think it will just be a shocker to the system. I think that the guys are probably trying to create a solution that might be sustainable, hopefully in the near future. I think that the minister probably has no choice but to make sure that he increases the cuts from 150 maybe even to R3 and extends it by maybe 2 to 3 months instead of a 1 month relief for us, Braden. Otherwise, they're going to always be talking about this on a monthly basis. I think we need to get a deeper cut, and I think we need to make it more sustainable until the price of oil stabilizes.
Yeah, and it's been going up recently. I mean, the fuel levy is a sticking point because government says in terms of its revenue, it needs that R3.93 per litre fuel levy. But some people believe also that the road accident levy of R2.18 has now become unnecessary. What are your views?
Look, I mean, on the road accident fund one, I'm a big believer of the fact that I think that's the most unfairest deduction in its fuel price. People have accidents out there. I think the state should instead provide for their healthcare provisions, and the state should hopefully put a system that's That's going to make sure that when people are involved in accidents, they don't necessarily become a problem of the state, but they're given medical help. That is great. And then maybe the government tries to get them work where it's possible, but only the extremely impacted people, where someone becomes extremely incapacitated, then the government should step in. You're getting people that are actually back at work, getting millions and millions of rands in the road accident fund. I think we need to revisit the REF and decide if that's the best use of our state revenue. I certainly think that is not. Maybe if you wanted to say we're taking that REF portion and we're putting it into the national health insurance, I'd say then a broader base of people would benefit from the road accident fund. At this stage, I don't think it helps all of us. And I think if you look at the fact that we sell fuel and oil to our neighboring countries and they are buying it at less than where we are buying, that is certainly not fair. The fuel levy needs to be revised by the government, in my humble view. The base price of fuel, Braden, is 14 rands, 11 odd, and then the balance is it's about 7 rands odd that comes through from these taxes. And I think that it's a big problem because, in my humble view, the government is just taking advantage of this very easy way to collect tax instead of trying other avenues, which we have discussed on your show, like growing the economy and creating more taxpayers, creating jobs and creating more taxpayers, and incentivizing companies to create more revenue so that the government can then get more tax from that side of the equation. Using the revenues coming through from pricing oil this way is just going to cripple the economy. It's going to cripple the transport-dependent sectors of our economy.
Yeah, hopefully that's one of the issues that the government might be looking into a kind of a sustainable way forward for the short to medium term in dealing with the reduction and some relief for us as motorists and consumers of the fuel price. You've mentioned that they should be focusing on creating jobs, but our economy is not creating jobs. I'm talking to you now on the back of the latest unemployment figures for Q1 of 2022, disturbingly so, and it's an issue I'm going to discuss shortly with a risk analyst in the studio, Dr. Kingsley Makubela, when he joins me at about 2:30 here, is the fact that 3.8 million young South Africans, out of that cohort of 10.2 million South Africans aged between 15 years and 24, are not in employment, not in education, not in any form of training. I mean, that's just a huge problem. It's a crisis.
It is a big crisis, and our government, is not doing enough, in my view, to show us that they are aggressively trying to push the one lever that can reduce that number of unemployment, growing the economy, attracting foreign investors into a country that's ready for them to invest, incentivizing entrepreneurs in the country and outside the country to make sure they can start, taking out money from their pockets and creating jobs, creating enterprises that will be sustainable. But then I said in one of the tweets I put out earlier that I think that we're just creating unsustainable room for social unrest in the country if we do not start to drive the economy in the right direction.
Yeah, and that's the topic I'll be discussing with Dr. Kingsley Makubela. On that note, Senzangakhona Nkomo, the potential for social unrest against all these numbers that we're talking about and the situation where we find ourselves in as a country today. The IMF warning just a few weeks ago that many countries in sub-Saharan Africa will be facing growing social unrest. Thank you very much for your time and analysis and insights, as always. Senzangakhona Owen Nkomo, the CEO of Inkunzi Wealth Group.